This is a Dungeoneering video about binds, customization of your ring for your class, and a bit about combat styles. The first thing you should bind, your first weapon, should be definitely a weapon. When you start off first time, you'll be in a C1 and there's a Catagon, Battle Axe, and Rapier, depending on what your stats are. But whichever of the two, just bind the weapon so you can use it for when you get to C6, where you won't get any more free items. After that, when you make your first real weapon, it should be the highest level you can wield with parent attack, up to 90 for Prometheum, and bind it. The top two choices for weapon is the 2H and the spear. The spear is very useful because it's versatile. Monsters in Dungeoneering are more vulnerable and more resistant to certain attack styles than outside in the other RuneScape. And here it's much more prevalent on what you pick to be efficiently killing them. So the spear is useful because it has stab, slash, and crush. The downside about the spear is that the slash is its weakest attack style, but it's a large portion of the monsters you encounter in here is weak to slash, while stab isn't as useful. It's only so the monster's weakness to stab is only evident in 2 or 3 monsters, not very much, so it's not too useful as spears. But spears can be poisonous, so it's beneficial if you have a spear that's poisonous, so then monsters will be killed over time. The other choice, which I prefer, is the 2H. It's very useful because it has high slash bonus, which is good on a lot of monsters here, and crush, which is second best. So you'd slash the dangerous monsters like mages in general, like the Forgotten Mage, animated books, necromancers, and also the Forgotten Rangers are also weak to slash, so that's useful for there. Crush is useful against skeletons and some other types of monsters like reborn mages. So but you don't have stab. But on the bright side, you don't really need stab either, because not very useful. Your second bind, you would want it to be the Shadow Silk Hood because it's very useful. Humanoids can't see you unless you're revealed by a mage. But even so, after you kill the mage, you can just get out of the room until your hood resets, and then enter again afterwards, so that the humanoids won't be able to see you anymore. But unfortunately, it's relatively rare to, well, not really, it's uncommon to get it. You have to kill through many night spiders and hope that you get this as a drop. So until you can actually find it as a drop, you'll bind a plate body. Your plate body will be the highest that you can make. Preferably, well, if you can't make it, you should ask a friend or anyone in general to make you a plate body. And then after you get to level 100 and you have your Shadow Silk Hood, you should get your plate body as your third bind again, and Platelegs as your fourth bind when you're 120. If you can't find other useful items like the Hexhunter Bow. As for the Hexhunter Bow, that is a very powerful ranged weapon. It's just about the only thing that makes range worthwhile, because range in general is weak in Dungeoneering. But the Hexhunter Bow although it has a decent, good range bonus, but it also has the benefit of being stronger against monsters that have mage levels, so that it becomes very powerful. And you should definitely bind that weapon. And as for the ammos, the generally recommended bind is law runes. It's very useful, so you don't have to make them. You don't need resistance beginning, so you can safely, or you can teleport to the person with the group gate if they have like a guardian door or something that needs your attention to help speed up the floor. What I have here is Cosmic Runes. I prefer this much more because if I need to teleport like I would with Law Runes, I would just drop off my group gate here, my personal gate here, and then when someone calls, for like example, if I'm in a room's 5 away, and then person drops gate runes, he calls guardian door, or she. I'll just gate to my gate and then go through the portal, and I'll be at the guardian door anyways. Plus, this allows me to drop my gate safely, and I run out right away at the beginning. But it's law is just easier to use though. The next bind I recommend is either a celestial surgebox or a magical surgebox. It holds of the spells air, blood, and death. Depending on what it is. It doesn't hold the elemental ones. But mage is very powerful against monsters like the warrior and zombies. But zombies can be meleeed just easily. So then warriors are hard to hit through if you're just using a sword. But mage would be very beneficial to knock them out quickly and get on with the floor. And the next bind is my least recommended is arrows. You can bind arrows and poison them, but I don't find it very useful at all because you don't need arrows at all. For the most part, you wouldn't range monsters since the sword is much more useful. The only time you really need range is against the Necrolord or shooting stuff that you can't reach unless the bridge is built. So yeah, arrows not very useful. Next is customization. The first thing I prefer is Berserker. It helps me hit gives a 20% increased damage, I think it was. And it only works when I'm aggressive. So this is not a choice for when you're using Spear, which has no aggressive. It only is accurate, control, and defensive, which makes Spears unable to use any of the melee class rings. So instead, the spear should either be like double as a ranger or mage, and have a skill or class like gatherers, which I like because I can do skills, doors, and rooms while taking less damage if I fail it, and being able to gather extra resources for making ragers or bows for a boss. Another useful one is being a medic. Heals up to 50% higher. Mine's not there, but it's decent enough. That way, when you use a food on someone, it's equivalent to you get free half of a food you use. So you get more health for one food. And it's helpful to save on the scarce amount of food they have without wasting and using them up. If you're a mage, the general consensus I think is to take Blazer, increase your damage, so up to 50% times for 50% damage, so that's effectively 25% damage overall bonus, which is more than melee, but magic is weak, so as max hit. The snaring, it's not very useful. As I heard, it's not worth it, and neither is the faster casting, doesn't help enough, so that Blazer is better to take. For range, it's people say Desperado, so I went high on this. Since you're usually on rapid stance anyways. If you have a bow, Hexhunter Bow as a bind, and you're less than level 130, so 100, so that you have only a bow and a silk hood, I recommend having the class of range Desperado and doubling as a mage with Blazer, so that way useful killing mages and melee monsters by switching the two, because you wouldn't have a weapon and you'd pick up something weak like a Catagon at the table or something. And next, combat styles. Well, I kind of said it before, but basically you'll be unless you have like Hexhunter Bow or want to mage, you'll pretty much just have a sword to fight. And to help out, you should do more than just have law runes and cosmic runes and whatever else you have. You should also have a toolkit, and it's very useful if you also make runes to help kill warriors if no one else is an actual mage, which most people aren't. So in general, people should help out, speed up the floor by filling inventory with helpful things like making fire surge or whatever high spell you use, kill the warriors, or make entangles. That's also useful to make. If in rooms where it's like there's a mage to reveal all of you, and then there's also strong warriors around, but you can't protect against both mage and the warrior. You can entangle the warrior to prevent it from attacking you while killing off the mage, and then deal with the warrior afterwards. As for range, just don't beat, I guess, unless you want that as second attack style, I guess. Unless you have Hexhunter, that's fine, but range is pretty weak in Dungeoneering, so I would recommend against doing that. Oh, one more thing. When customizing, I would recommend at least go up to 5, because it's only a few hundreds, if not a few thousands of tokens that you spend, but in exchange you get hit 10% higher halfway here. Or not even. Even one level Berserker, you're at 11%. So having the one, not having any points and tokens invested into the roll is just a waste, since it's just I think it was like 165. That's only 1k. You can easily get that in a few minutes doing floor, depending on what level you are. But it's not very hard. It's well worth it in the long run to have tokens invested for your skills, classes. And if you're going from far away, for like example 120 Dungeoneering or something really high, I recommend you just put it tier 10. You don't really need the experience. I mean, you don't really need the tokens unless you plan to do it like 40 times or more with your character weapons, or get 40 sneaker peepers or something. So just max out what you use. I don't really use range or mage, so that's why these are low, and so I find that's something more useful for it. That's why I have Gather and Berserker at tier 10, because I use them very much, and it's very useful to hit 20% harder.